you haven't given me a definition of capitalism at all. You've told me a bunch of things that capitalism isn't, and then you've given me a bunch of random collected facts of history, but none of these
Not
things
at all.
are.
No,
Wait,
no, I didn't do that.
absolutely.
Here, let me talk for 45
when you talk about
minutes
how
again.
markets aren't unique to capitalism, that's great. Worker management isn't unique to socialism. Worker management can exist under a capitalist system right now. I know that you like to talk about Mondragon a lot. Mondragon.
Wait, let Destiny finish. Let Destiny finish. We're gonna go one at a time here, okay? So let Destiny finish and then we'll continue.
When we talk about worker-managed firms or worker-managed co-ops, these things exist under capitalism. What do you? Okay, well, what are you saying then? Can I hold on real quick? I'm sorry. Can I get an explicit answer that is answered within the last 50 years without going back into feudalism or what the Pope said or the schism of the Catholic Church? I want to know very concretely, without moralizing or loading anything, or without talking about something that happened in 1850. What is capitalism to you? Can you just tell me or explain what capitalism is? Because it sounds like yeah. Go ahead.
Any definition of anything is a process of separating it from that which it is not. That's all any definition ever was.
But we don't typically give definitions by naming every single thing.
Okay, let him answer. Let him answer,
Define
Destiny.
a dog is you differentiate it from a cat. Otherwise, there's no way to do it. To differentiate and to give a definition of capitalism,
Okay, this is driving me
So
crazy.
bad.
Okay, because this is like a total misunderstanding of how people process information. Okay, because it's people can only understand things if there's an opposite they can compare it to. That's true, but that's not how we define things. Like if someone said, well, what is a dog? Someone's never seen a dog before. They say, what is a dog? You're not going to go, well, there's a thing called a lion. It's a very large cat-like creature with a mane, Oh,
that's what it is?
But no, that's not what a dog is.
Oh my God. Okay.
But let me tell you, there's this thing called a whale. It's this very large cylindrical like mammal that lives
So dogs
underwater.
are in the water?
No. It's nothing like a whale. Okay, let me finish. Okay, there's this thing called the flea. Now a flea lives on a dog, and it's this tiny little like.
Wait a second. Dogs live on dogs?
No. Let me finish. No, it's nothing like a flea. Okay. Now there's a thing called COVID-19.
Oh my God.
It's just like, oh my God, this is so stupid.
Yeah. But you got to admit, defining things this way does allow Richard Wolff to talk for an infinite amount of time.
That's true.
Before anyone else can talk.
That's true. That's a great point, because if you're going to define something by its opposite, or by what it's not, it's not even by its opposite, what it's not, then there's an infinite number of things that can fit that criteria.
the proposal of socialists is a proposal to extend democracy from the political realm to the economic realm. Why that is frightening to people who otherwise say they favor democracy, I find amazing.
I find it equally amazing that throughout this entire monologue, all you're advocating for are liberal markets with a little bit more government intervention. If you want to talk about Mondragon, absolutely. If you want to talk about Mondragon, we can talk about Mondragon until we're both blue in the face. One, it's not worker managed, okay? It is just worker owned. A lot of the management that comes within a lot of the Mondragon Federation come from other workers, but they do not vote on all of their policies or productions. That is absolutely not true. Number two, Mondragon does run itself for profit. That's why if you only change the means of production and not the mode of production, you are still producing commodities for a profit. Now, it happens in this case that the profit is going to the workers, but it still absolutely runs for a profit. That's why socialists point to it and say, look at how successful it is. Part of the reason why it's successful is the amazing revenues and profits that it returns to its workers that are generated. And then number three, Mondragon, in order to
wait, just let him finish.
In order to continue growing, one of the problems that Mondragon has started to face recently, and it's one of the reasons why it's criticized by people like Chomsky, is because it's had to continue to acquire more and more workers that do not get controlling shares, that don't have the ability to vote on what's going on. Mondragon also trades across markets, including going to places like South America and trading with exploited workers. So I don't think that Mondragon, and finally, Mondragon exists under a capitalist mode of economics. Like, Mondragon exists and interacts with other people within a capitalist economy, which I think is good. If Mondragon works and succeeds, that's awesome. I think it's cool. I like to see alternative types of businesses succeed. But I don't understand how you can talk about the successes of Mondragon and then say that, like, well, this is an example of the failures of capitalism when Mondragon exists and thrives right now under a capitalist framework, interacting with so many other capitalist sections of the economy, so many other capitalist countries in the world. My problem is that by moving more towards what you want, you would use government policy to necessarily disallow the types of private ownership or private investment that have been so important with other types of inventions created around the world. You can keep saying that I'm making stuff up, but at the end of the day, the problem that we're having,
you don't keep.
The problem we're having is the definition of socialism, and I notice that this is like it seems to be a key problem with people that call themselves socialists, is your definition of socialism is so amorphous and morphing at any particular point in time. I still don't really
you seem to be having trouble with it, but that doesn't make it amorphous.
It absolutely is amorphous. Even your definition of capitalism is absolutely amorphous. Where I hear.
No, you're just not familiar with it.
I'm absolutely familiar with it. I absolutely am able to. If you would like to ask me for my definitions of any of these things, I would be glad to explain it. And you can tell me, you can correct me, Professor, if you think I'm incorrect in my understanding of things. But I believe that when I ask you to tell me, like, what is capitalism, what is socialism, and it feels like I'm listening to Trebek, read off the board in Jeopardy, I feel like that's damaging to the position that you're trying to explain more so than me asking the question.
Yeah, well, let me correct you about Mondragon, which is, by the way, how it's pronounced. Mondragon has multiple parts. Some of the parts are the adjustments it's made to living in a capitalist world. That's absolutely correct.
See, all the bad parts of Mondragon is because they have to exist in a capitalist world.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just adjustments, right? There you go.
Mondragon made $14 billion in 2019, and Apple made $55 billion in 2019.
All right, final question to you, Professor Wolff. Under your system of worker cooperatives, would I still get my PlayStation 5?
Oh. This answer is epic, right?
The
here.
all-important question. Can
This
I still
answer,
get my PlayStation
and he
5?
totally fucks it up. He completely messes his question up.
Yep.
Absolutely. You'd have to struggle a little bit for it. You'd have to talk to your fellow workers. You'd have to talk about the distribution of income. You'd have to compare your desire for PlayStation against all the other interests of all the other people.
The fucking console wars are going to make it so your PlayStation is never even created.
Oh my God.
The console wars are going to enter the workplace.
What is this fucking answer?
I know.
Can I buy my PlayStation 5 under a co-op? Well, you'd have to convince everyone. What are you talking about?
Yes, you have to convince your 500 employees that you should make enough money to actually buy a PlayStation.
What the? I don't even know what he's talking. This is insane.
It wouldn't be something you worked out on your own with your particular boss in any way. It would have to be a democratic decision. You'd have to come to terms with that the way you do with democratic decisions. Now,
look at Lance's face, dude. Is he's like, does he understand the question here?
Yeah, because
like,
I don't understand his answer.
I don't either.
Like, because it's like, I would imagine he would say, well, of course you get paid for your co-op and you go out and you buy your PlayStation 5. Like, what is this answer? I don't.
The answer should be, well, you're making so much more money at the co-op than you are at any other job you had. You could buy 5 PlayStations.
There you go. There you go.
No,
apparently I have to get into a protracted conversation with my fellow employees about whether
I can personally buy a PlayStation.
Whether I really deserve a PlayStation 5. What the fuck is real? Is this part of the co-op structure that Richard Wolff advocates for that we didn't realize?
I guess, yeah.
Now in society, to the extent that we have them. And I would like to add only that if Steve is interested, he could also look at the experience with COVID that the Cubans had, because it is in many ways even better than the ones that the Vietnamese had.
For the purpose,
dude, he just he humiliated him, man. He's like, old Richard Wolff is ready to go crawl in his shell. He's like, God damn it! I hope I still have that guy at Vice who was sucking up to me for so long in class. Hope he's still working at Vice. I need a hit piece.
Maybe that's what he's looking down. He's writing the piece himself.
He's looking. He's looking for the email address.
Yeah, he's looking. He's opening all his drawers. He's like, "Where's that Vice guy's email address?
Where is it?"
I can't find it. I'm like,
I knew I wrote it on a napkin.
It just, dear vice journalist, help! All caps.
Yeah, exactly. Please save me. I've destroyed my career.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. It's a lot
Transparency. I'm just going to state that last question was actually my own. And now we'll move on to closing.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
You like that? Lance tried to throw the easiest fucking softball of all time.
Oh my God.
And not only did Richard Wolff swing and miss it, he somehow smashed the bat to his own face.
Yes.
And gave himself a black eye.
2 black eyes. How the hell is this possible?
Then he tripped on his own untied shoelaces and his pants fell down. Total disaster.
And Lance right here is like looking like, oh my God, I threw the ball. I threw that ball.
It turned out that he was wearing Tesla underpants.
Oh my God.
Oh. The ultimate embarrassment for any socialist.
There you go. He's a Musk fan.
Statements. We'll begin with Destiny, and then we will end with Richard Wolff. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, geez, I didn't write a closing statement. So at the end of this, I guess my important takeaway for all of this is I think that it is crucial not to moralize our economic systems. I think that when you start to moralize economic systems, what you forget is that an economic system is merely a tool. I don't want to ask a question of like, is a hammer good or evil? I want to ask, like, what is the best type of nail that you can hit with a particular hammer? When you begin to point out whether or not a particular economic system is in and of itself good or evil, then you lose sight of what economies are supposed to do, which is efficiently allocate capital or natural resources in ways that make a country as prosperous as possible. I do agree with Richard Wolff and probably with every socialist or every left-leaning person around the world that there are a ton of problems that exist in the Western world, and more specifically in the United States today, relating to things like inequality, social justice, lack of access to things like healthcare or education or basic things like food stamps or shelter or or other like basic necessities. I just don't see how a socialist society solves literally any of these things. And I don't feel like I've ever been given an adequate explanation by any socialist for how they would organize their society. Usually these arguments are incredibly amorphous or vague, such that literally everything is socialism. Like you can still have private enterprise and co-ops and the government does some things and voila, that's socialism, which just sounds like liberalism to me with government intervention, which is liberalism. Or they try to make arguments for more strict forms of socialism. But I think that it's hard to get them to admit that in those stricter forms of socialism, they would disallow things like private investment. And I guess it bothers me because so many innovations and things have existed only under the framework of capitalism that even with public research and public pushing, you weren't able to get. For instance, I believe the LED was discovered or was invented in Russia like 100 years ago. God. And it wasn't until Western private enterprise took a hold of that invention and started utilizing it that anybody was able to actually enjoy the invention.
For those of you just listening, we're like... Richard Wolff is like standing up and sitting down and kissing his forehead against the webcam.
Well, this is amazing because this is the first time, as usual, these videos, I usually don't watch them. I listen to them. So This is the first time I'm watching this. So I had no clue that for like the last 20 minutes of this conversation, Richard Wolff's like doing jumping jacks. He's like looking around constantly. He's like opening every drawer in the desk like 10
pouring
times.
A martini. He's like cleaning out his pipe.
He's like vacuuming over the corner. He's like looking away from the like. What is he fucking doing? It's so crazy. And the thing that's funny about it is it's so passive aggressive. It doesn't come off as like funny or like it's funny to me because it's insane, but like it doesn't come off as like, oh, look, he has so, she's showing destiny. I have such little disrespect that it just comes off as like, oh, look at this passive aggressive bitch who, he just can't wait to get out of this conversation. So he's like not paying attention or pretending not to pay attention because there's nothing for him to look at. Like he's just staring around. Like, is there like a murder taking place like off screen next to the camera? Like what's happening over there?
That's funny.